Chapter 14. The Show Must Go On. When you have no time restraints and are able to think clearly and unobstructed, you can come up with many logical and sane plans to combat any problem. But then there are the times like this when you only have 6 seconds to think and decide to throw logic and sanity right out the window, and do something that, when you look back on it later in life, you wonder how the fuck you even managed to come out of it alive. And this was one of those fucked up times. There were 6 mammals in front of me, half armed with guns, and the other half ready to throw their javelins. Behind me was an unknown number of mammals barreling down the stairs, armed with who knows what and willing to do the same. Thankfully, this was an imminent enough threat that I was able to activate bats before the first bullet and javelin started their short trajectory towards my sudden death. My gun only held 8 rounds, and there was no way I'd find time to reload in the middle of this shitstorm. And even if I could, that alone would take up at least half my time under the serum. So I decided to do the next best thing. I pulled out 2 grenades. Above me, the ceiling was high enough to give me plenty of room to attempt to jump out of the blast. I popped the tops off the grenades and pushed the buttons. Once the grenades left my paw, I crouched down and pushed myself upwards with all my might. As I reached the apex of my jump, the serum finally wore off. Fuck! Grenade! I wasn't sure if any one of them heard that in time. But not even a second after those words started to echo through the hall, they were drowned out by an explosion. The shockwave sent me at least another foot into the air, and I could feel some heat licking at my feet. Then I felt pain coursing through my side as I started to fall back towards the ground. I landed with a loud thump and tried to lift myself up. The pain was shooting through my legs and arms. I placed a paw where the pain originated from, and returned with blood. My blood. I don't know if it was a bullet or some stray debris created by the explosion, but something had hit me, and it hurt like hell. But there was nothing I could do about it now. Even if I did manage to kill or incapacitate my aggressors, that still left me with Bailey, the fucking elephant who was torturing a defenseless elder. Come on, Olivia, get up! I slowly stood up, gripping my side with my paws. I looked around. Through the doorway, the 3 gunners were down, showing no signs of movement. 2 of the 3 tigers that wielded javelins were also down, although I could tell at least one of them was still breathing, his chest slowly heaving each breath. I would deal with him later. From the looks of it, he wasn't going to get up anytime soon.
Miss, are you all right?
The voice was breaking up, with an almost painfully sounding buzzing between the words. I looked towards the voice. Laying on the ground halfway up the stairs was Onion, sparks flying from his chassis. Did I do that? Fuck, please tell me I didn't do that. I ran towards Onion, completely forgetting why I was even here, and I felt something wrap around my neck. It tightened so quickly and I started to struggle to breathe. You fucking cunt of a rabbit. You come here, kill my men, and for what? To rescue some fucking buffalo who should have died years ago? I tried to tell her to fuck off, but the rope around my neck was too tight as she spoke. The world started to go fuzzy. Oh, don't you die on me, rabbit. I ain't done with you yet. As she spoke, her trunk waved and lifted me off the ground, sending me flying down the hallway towards where she was. As I flew past her, I slammed into the concrete wall at the end of the hall. I think I felt some, if not all, my bones break. She unraveled the rope from my neck as I slid down the wall and fell limp to the ground. I tried to speak, but I was having trouble catching my breath. Elevated heart rate detected. Vital signals decreasing rapidly. Total systemic failure imminent. Recommend action. Proceed to nearest medical treatment facility. I could barely speak. I tried to get bats to activate, but I couldn't form the words. What good would it do me anyway? I could barely move. And even if I did manage to activate it, I didn't even know where my gun was, let alone be able to lift my arm to fire it. This was it. My luck ran out. Fate won, and I lost. Fuck you, Fate. Vital signals reaching critical levels. Activating emergency procedures. Warning. Prolonged use of experimental serum X700 may cause mental deterioration. Do you wish to proceed? Whatever the fuck it just said, it's better than dying now. I use my remaining strength to carefully form the right word. Yes. If the chemicals that were used in bats were akin to a euphoric feeling, this was more like having my brain smashed by a slice of lemon wrapped around a brick. I felt all the pain in me vanish. My senses alerted further than I ever had felt. I gained unsurpassed focus and clarity. Despite the fact that I knew some of my bones were broken, I managed to get up with ease. I saw Bailey's face melt from her sadistic grin and reform into one of horror. How? You shouldn't be able to move! How the fuck are you moving? I was right about not having my gun. I must have dropped it, along with my bag when she grabbed me. But that didn't matter. I may be the size of a rabbit, but I feel like a rhino. The elephant's face became awash with anger once again as she lifted up her rope. Unlike under bats, time seemed to move normally. Everything happened at once. Only I felt stronger and faster than I ever have in my entire life. The rope came sailing towards me, but I didn't even try to dodge it. I ran straight into it. I knew that despite me feeling stronger, there was no way I would be able to physically take her on, so I decided to use her as my weapon. I jumped up as the rope reached me, flipping through the air as I grabbed it. With the rope in hand, I bounded off the wall, flying quickly behind her and ricocheting myself off the adjacent wall back towards her. With the rope firmly gripped in my paws, I jumped again and again until I landed a few feet in front of her. And now I was the one with the smile. How you fucking little... Those were her last words as she struggled to speak. I had literally jumped circles around her, causing the rope to wrap around her own neck. I was standing there, gripping the rope as she tried to struggle. Under any other circumstance, she probably would have been able to overpower me. But I think that I caught her by surprise so suddenly that by the time she realized what had happened, it was too late. I just stood there, keeping the rope taut as I dropped her to her knees. Then, she stopped struggling. Like a massive stone, she collapsed, causing the entire hall to shake. I let go of the rope and looked at my paws, and they were red. The friction of the rope had torn away my fur and flesh. Normally the other chemicals would have worn off by now, but I still felt alive. I turned towards the only other door in the hallway and entered through it into the main hall. I ran towards where the buffalo was in the middle of the stage. I saw no one else. The rest were either dead or scattered. The buffalo looked much older up close, but he was not hanging his head anymore. Rather, he was looking at me, eyes wide. I couldn't tell if it was from thanks or fear. I realized that he was in such a position that my entire fight with the elephant was visible to him. I went to try to untie him, but the knots were really tight, and I didn't have anything to cut them with.
Allow me.
I was startled when the buffalo said it so clearly, like he hadn't even been tortured. Then he shocked me again when he closed his eyes and I saw his muscles start to bulge as he flexed. He let out a small grunt as the ropes binding him snapped into pieces. He could have done that this entire time? He stood up and casually wiped his pants as he knelt down and held out a hoof.
Thank you for rescuing me. My name is Maximilian Laszlo, and I am in your debt.
I went to shake his hoof when a large explosion occurred behind me. I turned around and saw that the main hall doors had been blown open, and from the smoke at least a dozen large shapes appeared, each of them wearing massive armored suits and all of them pointing guns at me. Wait, I can... That was all I could say before the chemicals finally wore off. And these chemicals didn't just fade away slowly. They simply vanished, instantly bringing back all the pain that they were keeping at bay. My legs sagged beneath me as I collapsed onto the ground. This time I managed to do so face up. I remained conscious long enough to see that I was now surrounded by behemoths. But there was nothing I could do. And then, everything went black. I felt as if I had been shattered into a million pieces. I was too afraid to open my eyes, knowing that the worst had finally happened. I heard noises that I could not recognize. They sounded organic, like worms struggling through water-soaked earth. Some of the noises got closer as others drifted further apart. I heard the rhythmic beat of something floating in front of me, only to drift away, and everything felt cold. It wasn't a chilling cold, but rather a lifeless one. I could feel my body, but it didn't feel right. I tried to move my arm, but it felt distant. My legs felt as if they were distant not only from me, but from each other. And suddenly I felt one of my legs move closer, and then the other one. Each leg alternating between close and far. Was I walking? It didn't feel like any movement I knew of. I tried to turn my head, but my eyes were still shut. My head turned, and it continued to turn. I tried to move my arm to stop it, but I had trouble telling it what to do. I dared to open my eyes. I was floating. I could see a bleak and unending sky. I kept turning, but I couldn't find land, just sky. Why could I feel my head spin, but not the rest of me? I tried to stop the slow spinning. Why couldn't I move my arm? And then I saw it. My arm just floating there, disconnected from my body. The rhythmic beating passing by me again. It was a heart. My heart. I started to panic. What was going on? My eyes started to focus through the bleakness, and as the clouds parted, I could see all of it. All of me, just floating there. My arms and legs, organs and bones, everything removed from each other like some horrific jigsaw puzzle. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone. I wanted to cry, but there were no tears. There was nothing but silence. And then I felt it again. The worms had resumed their crawling. Only it wasn't worms. I saw as my torso floated past my heart. Red, bloody tendrils slowly emerging from my torso, wrapping themselves around my heart. I could see them, feel them pulling my heart into its empty cavity. I could soon feel more and more tendrils, each of them seeking out their missing pieces. My torso found organs, my legs found their bones. I watched my own body put itself back together, piece by piece. Soon there was nothing left but my body and my head, both floating in an empty sky. And then I felt something new. My heart started to beat inside my own chest, faster and faster. I could feel the blood cells flowing through my veins as they reached out to fill up my body with life. I saw my own body reach out its arms and float towards me. It wouldn't be complete until it had my head. As it approached, I saw those bloody tendrils starting to extend from the neck, lashing out towards me. I should be glad. I should have wanted it, to be whole again. But at that moment, there was only one thing I wanted to do. I closed my eyes and screamed. I woke up screaming. I tried to get up, but my legs and arms were tied down to something. Panic was racing through my body. Bright lights were shining down upon me. I tried to focus past the light, but they were so blinding. I I looked around, but all I could see were shadows within the brightness. One of the shadows moved towards me. Calm down. Will someone please sedate her? I didn't recognize the voice. Everything seemed so unfamiliar. The noises, the smells, everything was out of place. The last thing I remember was death. An explosion causing another. And myself, my pain, both physical and emotional. Tears started to fall as I felt a small prick in my arm, and my body's reaction slowed down. I felt helpless. I just couldn't control my panic. And now I couldn't control my emotions. I felt the fur around my face get soaked as the tears fell. Everything I had done, everything that I wanted to do, it was all for me. I didn't stop to think of the dangers I could have put my burrow into when I opened that door. What if the radiation was still abundant and I ended up killing everyone? I didn't stop to think about those I'd killed. Did they have families? Children who depended upon them for care? Worst of all, in my selfish attempt to keep myself alive, I hurt my only friend I had left. I wanted to find him. I wanted to make sure he was okay. I wanted to sleep. Are you awake? The voice was calm. Where am I? Someplace safe, I can assure you. Now please, take it easy. You're still healing. I could hear genuine compassion in his voice. I took a look around. I was lying in a bed, but this time my limbs were free. The panic from before had subsided, and my eyes felt very dry. I blinked them a few times until my tears did their best to moisturize them. The room was very plain, nothing on the walls. No furniture but a small nightstand with a lamp. It was also very clean. The cleanest room I'd ever seen since leaving the Burrow. Next to me, dressed all in white, was a badger. I need you to take it easy for a bit. Here, let me help you. He gently placed his paw on my arm as I tried to get up. My legs felt so weak, but there was no pain in them. I put one foot on the ground, and then the next, the badger supporting me the entire time. My knees didn't want to stay. My entire body caused them to buckle as I fell to the ground. The badger tried to catch me, but he missed. He knelt over and helped me get up. Yeah, I got you. You've been bedridden for almost a week. Your motor functions will need to adapt. A week? I tried to step forward at that news, but my knees buckled again. This time I landed on my ass and just sat there. Both from the shock of what he told me and the fact that I may have just broken my butt. Where am I? Like I said, you're safe. Please, wait there. There's someone eager to see you. He walked out as I did what he said. I just stayed there. My brain was wrapping around the fact that I had been wherever this place is for a whole week. I remember saving the buffalo. And I remember getting my ass handed to me by a very mean elephant. A lot of the events were foggy in my head. There were explosions, and then I was surrounded by large figures. And then there was... Miss, you're finally awake. Onion? I tried to get up again. I wanted to wrap my arms around that floating ball of circuitry. But I only succeeded in falling. Again. Onion, what happened? Where are we, and how? The last thing I remember, you were lying on the ground, barely functioning. It's a long story, miss.
One you will find out soon enough.
There was something familiar about that voice. I looked towards the doorway to see an aging buffalo standing there. He was very different this time. He looked much healthier. He was dressed head to hoof in an unfamiliar uniform. It was black and looked like it had been made out of some sort of hardened material. Covering the uniform was a large maroon coat that was left unbuttoned. His once broken horns were now dressed in large metallic ones. He didn't look like a helpless old buffalo anymore.
Let me formally introduce myself. I am Chief Maximus Laszlo, leader of the Steel Guardians.
Once I was able to get up and move on my own, Chief Laszlo led Onion and myself through something that reminded me much of the Burrow, only sharper and cleaner. The walls were made of metal, and every so often we would pass by some sturdy metal doors. This whole thing reminded me of when Jack Savage snuck into a secret military base to steal top-secret weapon plans. Onion floated up to me, so I decided to break the silence. "So, what happened to you, Onion?" "Well, miss, after your bout with that elephant, these Steel Guardian fellows showed up. I think they saw me when they were checking to see if any of those poor bastards you killed were still alive. At first they were going to just leave me, but when the chief heard me calling out to you, he told him to bring me along as well."
I didn't know what to make of that little robot of yours. We figured that he might have held some information we could have used, so we brought him to be repaired. Unfortunately, that robot has quite the mouth on him. He kept calling out for a Miss and Olivia, and since I was not familiar with that name among my captors, I figured that he must have been calling for you.
"Thank you for repairing me, sir. But I would inform you, miss, that they attempted to access my memory banks. Failed each time."
We stopped because your incessant yammering and the fact that you nearly knocked out a few of my men with that stunner of yours. Most of them were ready to deactivate you and use you as a kickball.
"I'm glad you're okay, Onion. And thank you for getting him fixed. He's all that I have."
You're welcome, miss. I saw how you took down not only the entire gang, but how you managed to take out their lieutenant with such ease after being so badly injured. I didn't want to see what would happen if we didn't return him to you in one piece.
Was I really that good? I don't remember a lot of it, honestly. Only that my Pip-Boar had... Wait. My Pip-Boar... Where's my Pip-Boar?
We had to remove it to set your bones. Don't worry. That, along with your belongings, are safe and will be returned to you shortly.
Okay, then. Last question. Where are we?
Now that is something you should see for yourself.
We reached two very large doors. On either side of them were two enormous elephants, both dressed in that mechanized armor. They saluted as Chief Laszlo approached, and one of them turned and touched his armored trunk towards a panel. A red light turned green as the door slowly swung open. The doors led to the outside. We passed two more giants, these being rhinos. We walked down a short tunnel that started to narrow as I could see the light from the outside. The sky was still cloudy, although I could tell it must have been midday or early afternoon. In the distance I saw massive trees that reached far above the cloud cover. Nearby was the flatlands that I was all too familiar with. There were buildings, but most of them were scattered, not bunched together like I had found by the theater.
Welcome to Steel Guardian Outpost Zeta.
We walked out into the open and I saw where we had come from. It was a gas station? The doors we had left seemed to be part of a small shed. Near it was a large building, large enough for a rhino and a row of fuel pumps. I recognized these from the History of Modern Technologies book that my mother gave me when I was young. Places like these were used to fill up many of the now abandoned cars that I'd seen since leaving the stadium. Tell me, Chief, how did you manage to find yourself in that predicament?
As you can tell, I'm getting old. While my men still respect me as their leader, they would rather me sit behind some desk while they take care of the hard work. I wanted to show them that I was still fit, and that I could lead them just as well from the field as I could from some dusty desk. I decided to take a small patrol out with me to clear out some small gangs that had been popping up. Typically, these small gangs were disorganized, often fighting amongst themselves more than against us. These guys, however, were different. It seems that recently, a few gangs, including the Grey Quills, have been assimilating these rogue gangs into one larger, more organized one. We didn't realize how far their influence had spread until it was too late. It was dark, and my team said that we should head back. Try again in the morning. But I was too damn arrogant. I wanted to show them that I was able to finish the mission. If the Steel Guardian's leader turned tail and ran, that would give the rest of them a bad impression of me. The Steel Guardians were founded on honor, made to be a shield against all forms of evil. I should have listened. Shortly after nightfall, we were ambushed. Despite all our training, all our technology, my team was no match for their viciousness. If only I had a bigger team. If only I had listened and completed this patrol the next morning. They would still be alive. I tried to avenge my fallen comrades. I fought with all I had. But there were too many of them. Bailey, their lieutenant that you killed, she was able to strike me down with that whip of hers, while the others tried to hold me. I managed to break a few arms, but I was overwhelmed. I was there in that theater for days. They wanted information from me. She tortured me for hours, trying to break me. While my bones may be old, my mind is sharper than ever. She never did get what she wanted.
And what was that?
The locations of all our outposts. You see, during the war, the original Steel Guardians had built hidden outposts like this one that served as shelters and armories. Every one of them was stocked with weapons, ammo, supplies, and everything you need to make it through the war. The largest one, built beneath ZPD Precinct 1, deep in the heart of Zootopia, used to be our main headquarters. Until we were run out by our own.
What do you mean, run out?
That is a long story. But suffice it to say, be careful. Not every Steel Guardian is your friend.
How will I know? I mean, you all look alike. No offense. Chief Laszlo snapped his hooves together and a small rabbit, dressed in a solid black armored jumpsuit, ran over carrying a bag. I looked at him. He was the first rabbit I'd ever seen since leaving the burrow. At least the first living one. He held my bag in one paw, and my Pip-Boar in the other.
We had our engineers modify your Pip-Boar. It seems that most of it was still factory default, so many of its features were disabled. We took the liberty of enabling most of them, including updating your personal friend or foe scanner. Every Steel Guardian, no matter their affiliation, wears special identification tags. Embedded in these are special codes. I uploaded every code from my group into it. If you meet up with any of the good guys, it will show up as a green blip on your screen. If it's not green, well, you might just want to avoid them.
Friend or foe scanner?
Yes. Every Pip-Boar has one. It takes in an account of the environment, previous encounters, and your vitals, creates a data structure that attempts to identify a target as friendly or aggressive. It's not perfect, But the more you use it, the more accurate it becomes. All of our exo armor has it. We even have a few pit boars among ourselves, but nothing that's in such good condition as yours. May I ask where you got it?
I thought about it. Did I really want to give away the location of my burrow to some strangers? Sure, I saved their leader, and sure, they healed me, so I doubt I can call them my enemies. Despite their tough-looking suits, most of them had given me a wide berth. Did the chief over-exaggerate my encounter with the quills? He did seem rather impressed, and I could always use that to my advantage if needed. I'm actually from a burrow.
A burrow? I haven't heard of one occupied for nearly a decade. That explains the condition. It doesn't, however, explain how you took out an entire gang like that. Even bats isn't that reliable.
Let's just say I'm a very fast learner. I don't know if he found that funny or what, but he let out a loud laugh.
I like you, Rabbit. Tell you what. Normally we have a lengthy selection process when it comes to new recruits, but you've proven yourself quite capable. I would like to officially offer you a position in the Steel Guardians. How about it, recruit?
Me? A Steel Guardian? They did have access to weapons and medical technologies that I was lacking, and the place did look very safe. It would also be nice to have some more protection other than just my luck. It was a very tempting offer, but I needed to get to Hope. Besides, I needed to make sure that Bo and his family had made it there safely. This would not feel like home. I needed some place that needed me, not just wanted me. As tempting as that offer is, I think I shall decline.
Are you sure? We have everything you would ever need. Even if you didn't want to see combat, there is still plenty to do around here. We also need capable members to help us secure other outposts before someone else can misuse their contents.
I have a previous engagement that I need to take care of, and I've been away for too long already.
Then I will not press you any more.
He snapped his hooves again, and the rabbit returned with a small bag.
This is a thank you gift from us. Contains medpacks, some military rations, and ammo for your weapon.
Thank you. The help will be needed on my journey.
Also, just in case you need help, or change your mind about joining us, we have programmed into your pip-boar our private communications access. As long as you are within broadcasting range, or nearby a broadcasting tower, you can contact us.
I took the bag of supplies and went to put it in my backpack. Then I remembered something. I dug into one of the side pockets and took out the identification tags that I had found on the downed vehicle. I found these on some of your men. I'm sorry, they didn't make it. He took them from me and looked at their names.
Thank you, Olivia. I will make sure these get sent to the proper places. These men died bravely trying to rescue me.
Chief Laszlo, along with the rabbit, and both guards at the door saluted me. I copied them and returned the salute. I thanked them again before heading out. I took a look at my pip-boar and pulled up the map. It seems that they also updated the map because west of here was the name of our destination. Hope.